Garo's back. More on that later. Um, of course, we're going to start off with Zyuohger this week, since the normal schedule for when all three of these shows are running is I discuss Shinta, I discuss Kamen Rider, and I finish up with Garo. So with Zyuohger this week, it kind of seemed like it was going to do the Groundhog's Day loop scenario. It turned out to actually be a dream, and, you know, for the most part, it was actually pretty well presented, as the real dilemma is getting them out of this dream, and thus out of the time loop scenario, which only happens because of Stella's hearing, and, you know, the team's actual intelligence to getting a solution out of the problem. Now, once again, this is a Yamato partial focus. The real focus is on Stella, but it's because of him that we get the solution out of it. But it doesn't irritate me with the overread focus, as I keep stressing, is because they're not idiots. And it astounds me I keep having to say this as one of the big good things about Zyuohger is that no one is an idiot. And Amu grates on me, that's personality-wise. And, you know, it played off of its story events to lead to its conclusion and resolution. See, before the whole scenario sets itself up, Stella reveals that the day of this incident was, in fact, her parents' anniversary, and since they couldn't find the champion symbol to get them back to Zooland, she's kind of commemorating it by, you know, trying to reminisce on it. And when Yamato discovers this, he suggests just writing down all her feelings about it so that when they get back, she can give it to them later, or something to that effect, which leads into the monster plot. I'm going this chronologically in the episode since this starts off as a flashback. The monster of the week is plant-themed, and when they start to fight it, it uses a spore that traps everyone in a perpetuating dream. I'm assuming there's some type of magic effect that keeps the dream looping, and the people in it normally unawares if they're not affected with outside stimuli. This is so that it can grow a giant Biolante-esque bulb under the city that will, I shouldn't say Biolante-esque, it will hatch into a Biolante-esque plant creature, which will then devour all meat bags, plant life. Okay, so it's not so much Biolante as the Green Death from Doctor Who, and I don't know why I keep drawing up the Toku and Doctor Who parallels. I just finished re-editing my Black RX videos a few days ago, and I was somehow astounded how many Doctor Who references I ended up making in those videos back then. So they figure out as the episode starts off with us thinking it's a time loop, it's kind of a subversion with the whole dream state thing, because, you know, in thinking about it, the time loop scenario doesn't quite make sense for our villains' motivations. What would they really get from time looping things unless it's solely to get our heroes out of the way? And if it was to get the heroes out of the way, then it would have to have an area of effect to it. Or, there's this episode of Power Rangers Zeo where, because of events in a previous episode, Tommy is immune to time manipulation effects because of a Machine Empire plan to build up their forces using the advantage of the time loop. I could see them doing that kind of plan for this, except it doesn't fit the modus operandi of the villains in that they're taking turns playing games. And, well, yes, they could use the time loop to keep this monster they're growing out of out of being damaged by the Zyuohger, so, you know, it's a cheat code to them jumping ahead to getting this giant monster on them. It doesn't exactly fit with the showcase powers and abilities. So, while the dream thing is kind of a cop-out, it's an understandable cop-out, in my opinion. But the thing about the time travel effect is that I'm referencing a lot of other series with this one. There's this episode of the Star Trek The Next Generation where the crew is actually in a time loop caused by a temporal anomaly which another Starfleet ship is trapped in, and it's coming out of it, and the Enterprise is coming into it, and they collide, and due to the effects of the anomaly that they're near, it causes them to reset so far back in time, and then they get sensations of deja vu. But the thing, I'm describing this episode because the thing about that episode that makes it so watchable is that it doesn't repeat the same scene the exact way every time. And this is where we have the problem with this episode, in that aside from the moments where they're starting to realize what's happening, they are pretty much just using the stock footage that they just showed us again. So, like, they shot it once, and then they replayed it the exact same way, aside from the side-alongs to the beginning of the variations, which started the third time they showed us it, and I think they went 4 or 5 times in the reiteration. No, they only did it twice, and then the third one was where they realized what was happening with the whole repetition. So, yeah, if they had done it more, then it would have been obnoxious, but just the same way 2 times was already beginning to grate on you, because upon the first iteration, you already know what's going on. So, yeah, they're only woken from the loop because Sarah hears the cries of the mole, I'm forgetting the name of the specific cube animals. That's it. Why was I forgetting that? She heard the cries of the mole cube animal that for some reason is right beneath them, and it's crying out for help because it's wrapped in the vines of the growing monster from its otherwise rest beneath the earth. So once Sarah realizes that they're in a dream, Yamato, because she still had... since Yamato still has the pendant that Sarah showed him earlier with her family in it, he manages to sleep move himself so that the pin of the pendant, which is normally patched on her clothing, pierces his hand, and when you injure yourself in your sleep, it's the jolt that wakes you up, and with that, Yamato wakes up everyone else, and this is very clever, and it's admittedly a bit contrived, but, you know, you can, when you're at that point, the nightmare they were trapped in was kind of turning into a lucid dream, and when you're pseudo-lucid, you can move yourself without really being conscious. I've actually had that happen where I've woken up in completely different rooms at times without remembering myself moving anywhere while asleep. It's usually happens when my parents got me up for something and I just end up collapsing back down somewhere else because I was that, tired or sleepy or whatever. It's a phenomenon I am familiar with, so it doesn't stretch my suspension of disbelief. So they go to fight the monster and destroy its bull creature. And while they're doing pretty well against the monster of the week now that they're woken up, this is kind of where we get into the bullshit of it. Because, everything up till now, aside from the time loop thing, has been actually pretty well presented, as is consistent with Zyuohger. Once they're trapped by the emerging plant creature, suddenly the mole cube animal breaks out of its bindings and then proceeds to save them for the rest of the episode. What? I mean, I would have bought this had one of them actually done something that had dislodged it and then thus freed it, but no, it gets itself free out of nowhere, then drills up to them, and it's like it's not even a real earning of its respect or, it's like automated camaraderie, and I kind of have an issue with this because thus far it was showing up as it unintentionally saves them, they save it, they earn its respect, they get the new partner mech thing. That's kind of how you expect these things to go at this point if you're doing it correctly, and no, it doesn't end up going like that. And it's not entirely horrible in how it's presented. It just seems like it's like they wrote themselves into a corner. How do they get this new mech after this creature that they're trying to stop has bound them down? Well, I honestly would have put it as 4 of the Zyuohger distract the monster of the week, while the other, possibly Yamato, since he technically has the... Actually, no one on this team has firepower, so I guess lightning would do, so make Leo the one that tears apart. Plus, he has the claws, which can tear apart plant life pretty effectively. I could see that working. Actually, anyone with the edged attacks. So, yeah, Yamato and technically Sella could do it as well. And, because of the whole shark fin thing, it's tentative. But yeah, technically any of them could have cut the bottom roots of the thing that, injured severely but still managed to free the mole, and thus they earn its loyalty. Because, it just... saving them out of nowhere after its cries for help first alerted them to its existence is kind of... yeah, that's definitely not the best part of the episode. But, since they were presenting themselves well throughout the rest of it, I'm willing to give it a buy with some just, constructive criticism on it for once. Ghost is following up on the Aran development plan, on trying to get him to, I wouldn't say so much side with the heroes against his world, but more, see more of existence than he's limited himself to, because it's more getting into how his thought process and how he's overly logical, because that's how the Gamma world has devolved itself to. So, commentary by his father about listening to his heart was something completely alien to him, and it's implying he's been snapping down a lot of emotional connections and reactions, while others he's not even really recognized. So he's disconnected from the truth of himself in a way that he is now regaining by spending more time stuck in his human body. That's not exactly helped by Igor's plans with the whole red skies thing, which they reveal in this episode to be some kind of neural network particulates that once spread is like the unifying force to this networking system that Igor was planning that's apparently supposed to be similar to how the whole Gamma icons work. So the whole wasteland thing of the Gamma world might be, in parts, how they've perpetuated this utopic state at the cost of pretty much the world, consider with the whole wasteland look at the place the few times we've looked in on the place so far. I don't know. It's kind of pseudo terraforming, but it's eventually revealed that the particulate is some other data that's stored in the monolith. So maybe considering the mystery states of the monoliths and the power of the ghost icons, maybe this is some other power at work. It would explain what's going on with the prayer markers that are descending and infecting Adele's forces. So yeah, maybe the next enemy for the series is on its doorstep, and both sides were being used. Wouldn't be the first time in the Kamen Rider series they've done that. Yeah, that's most of the episode, trying to get into Adele's head, countering the active threats, and, I guess the best way to say it is trying to humanize Aran, which, if you're trying to promote him as a decent person, kind of needed. It's better that we're getting it, but would have probably helped to more establish the character and these kinds of issues, like far earlier in the show, or not shunted most of his backstory into a Blu-ray exclusive episode. I'm still annoyed at that, by the way. Yeah, it doesn't keep him as an awful person, and, as has been happening the last few series, one of the secondary writers ends up getting more meaningful development than the protagonist, at times. And they put Kota on an arc. Shinosuke had an aborted arc about, returning back to himself after the whole trauma thing. Gyntaro did not have much of an arc. Haruto's was more about recovering from his, more like learning to let go, and that really didn't read through most of the time. Anyways, but yeah, they are currently aligned to help each other find out what's going on with the Gamma world, and, it's interesting. It's admittedly interesting to see the, I shouldn't say development again, but the change in attitude from simple actions. Like, at the beginning of the episode, he's trying to figure out a way to get Akari out of the way because she is mistrustful and wary around him, and is trying to, and is kind of spreading that paranoia. She did it a lot in the last episode too, because Aran admittedly does have an ulterior motive. He wants to use Takeru to find out what's going on with his home world and possibly use his power. And by the time that the episode ends, because Akari helped him when he was starting to feel the effects of the red light dust particle thing that was also putting Kanan down, that, because of that kindness, he's kind of flipping around and ends up saving her in turn when she goes to use her specially prepared anti-whatever particulate that was agent to remove the red sky phenomena. So it's like it's building camaraderie through mutual respect, I want to say. And I don't think that's the right term to describe what was going on with them, but yeah, Aran is at this point an ally of convenience. Again, I don't think that's the right term I want to use. But they're not going to be fighting each other until Aran has his answers and Takeru rescues Makoto. And from preview material, that should be beginning in the next episode. Yay. Because that should be the second to last upgrade is put on the table with that, because in the preview we saw the Deep Spectre icon, and after that it's only Mugen. And then they have all of the power-ups out of the way, aside from, of course, Ghost's movie. And then all they'll have left is to rely on the strength of the storytelling, which, as I keep saying, has been rushed. It's slowed down again, but it's workable now. Oh yes, Ghost Houdini Damashi. A lot of people were complaining about the dual horns thing, But it's not like they could just redo every face mask for that. They had to cut some corners at some places. Admittedly, they could have probably planned this in advance with, made it a separate part or part of the latching bit for the gimmick, but you can't always foresee these things. So now let's discuss Garo Makai Retsuden a bit. This is actually turning out to be an anthology series where a different character from the existing series takes focus for a differing episode. So you don't have to latch down to a single story arc. You can just get any character from the series and have them in a story with the Makai Knights, and as long as it expands in the series lore, it works better than what Tsuburaya did with Ultraman Retsuden, where it's pretty much just a long clip show with the occasional actual episode of the current Ultra series, which was Ultraman Ginga, Ultraman Ginga S, and Ultraman X. I don't follow Ultraman. I'm just remembering from the last time I did research about it. And yes, the Tiga review it's in the works. But to start off the series strong, they brought back Rekka from the movie Garo Red Requiem from 2010. I reviewed it last year. And she was also in Makai Senki, planning to do this year, we'll see. And had her focus on the story where she's asked by what appears to be a Makai priest, that is the keeper of the forest graves where fallen Makai Knights are set to rest. And in that forest, his daughter has been put in danger by the restless spirits that have come to see her as a horror somehow. They do not at all get into why they think that she is a horror. And I think that could have really more tied this story together in how Rekka has to use her own skills, experiences, and abilities to save the girl and put all these spirits back to rest. Because, they're guardian spirits, they're protectors. They would only come out to fight because that is their duty. That has been carved into their soul, and when someone is in danger or things that they fight are out there, they will never rest. And it's needing to learn when you need to put things aside and rest. And you can't spend the entire legacy of your existence fighting imaginary enemies. I keep stumbling over my words because I want to use the phrase "live," and they're dead. They're undead spirits, and it's admittedly pretty creepy. In the whole ghost story kind of way, where the dead shall not sleep. I keep using the same synonyms. But it's a pretty mature story, which is consistent for Garo. It does maturity well, as opposed to Darkness. Darkness is just an element of its tone, which is why I'm not liking Amazons. But yeah, the way Rekka finally gets them to rest after resorting to a bunch of her skills and other talents, including summoning an illusion of the Garo armor, because the Garo armor is the best Makai Knight armor. She finally does it by remembering her father's words from Red Requiem and playing her flute, and the song she plays is the one from that movie, which is again a way to put the dead back to rest. And admittedly in the movie they ended up using it as to raise the spirits from inside of a horror, but it's kind of like I guess it's kind of the same effect, because their souls would be tortured while being part of a horror, and it works ultimately because I guess it's soothing. I'm not a big flute or not flute. I'm not a big on wind musical instruments. I'm more things that have strings. I like violins. I like guitars. I like cellos. I'm actually pretty entertained by music that's able to mix it up in current genre styles. It's one of the reasons I like a lot of the Sentai and Kamen Rider music. They keep a lot of classical instruments in with the more rockish tunes. The twist in the ending, of course, is that the man who first contacted her, he's dead. And he left the duty of keeping these forced graves of the former Makai Knights to his daughter that got dropped by them. Whoops. Still, it's a learning experience, but I really feel it would have been tied more together by the girl that Rekka went to save was picking some type of plants in there for kind of memorializing her father. But I think what would have made that a bit better, as I was trying to get into a bit earlier, was if the plant was some type of Makai plant and it produced a scent or some type of thing that caused her to be mistaken for a horror that would more justify the restless spirits coming to attack her, even if they are completely wrong of that. And, that's not exactly, it's not exactly a non-existing thing in the series. I'm pretty sure they've used some type of horror bait in the series, even if it's just something with corrupted gang energy that calls them from the Makai realm. It's not. There's a precedent for that kind of thing. I should also note that it helps feel like a anthology series, like a Twilight Zone kind of thing, because Gonza, the butler slash mature attendant, the Alfred to the Saejima family's Batman, is the story framer with the opening and ending segments about the series, and it works for me. And I'm looking forward to more episodes because Garo has a large cast of great characters, and they're not always allowed to be as developed as they should be, and despite being pretty well established. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who's up. And from the images about the series, it shows both the classic Garo sword and armor and the Goldstorm Show sword and armor. So it should be able to do stories from all over the series. So we'll see them from Ryuga's era as well. And considering I've not seen Yami wo Tarasu Mono yet, I'm looking forward to seeing anthology episodes that might involve the Yami wo Tarasu Mono cast, or even the Goldstorm cast. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Black RX reviews are being put back up beginning Wednesday. They will be starting to be re-released. I finally got re-rendered reissue versions of the missing episodes from my older stuff. I will be trying to get those up on my Daily Notion account, and that's all I have for regular updates right now, and I will see you all later.